Welcome back to Acting for Camera here at TMI, and this is day number 5. We are almost finished. This is the last class that we have for this year, which is sort of bittersweet. It's been really exciting getting to look at something different with you all, but it's also sad because it means that we're at the end of this, and who knows what might happen in the future, but I know that this has been an exciting time. I hope that you've learned something from it, but we still have more to go. We still have today's class, so stay tuned, jump right in, and get ready to take notes and then put all of these skills into practice at the end. So what we're going to look at today with day 5 is we're going to look at continuity, eyeline, and connection. These are things that as an actor are really important for us to understand, really important for us to know, because it's something that we as actors have to be aware of, and it's what is going to connect people to our performance and what's going to help make us and take us from just a level of like a basic actor who kind of knows what they're doing to the exceptional actor who is good with their craft, who is an expert at what they do, and can create engaging performances that draw the audience in. So continuity is the concept or the idea that we want to create for the audience one continuous shot. So they feel like they're watching everything happening in one time, one space. It's all confined in this one moment. Now, as the actor, we know that that isn't the case. We've probably already done 50 shots of something very similar. But what that means for us as the actor is that we have to have a skill of paying attention to detail, and not just big detail like I pick up my fork, I put my fork down, I drink water, I walk over here. Yes, it's about your blocking and it's about hitting your marks at the right time. But even more than that, we have to have this like second understanding of our body, a highly tuned awareness of what our body is doing, how it's doing it, when it's doing it, what way is it moving. And we're able to repeat those things time and time and time again. As the actor, we don't want to disrupt continuity by doing the wrong thing or saying the wrong line or not following the line that we said before or missing a word. We want to make sure that we are word perfect and action perfect. And I'm going to explain what those mean. So if we're looking at being action perfect, it means that each time we do a shot, we are doing the exact same motions at the exact same time in the exact same way with the exact same timing. So everything is exact. If you are, for example, at a cafe and you have a cup of coffee in front of you, if your right hand is sitting around that cup of coffee, then every time you start that scene, your right hand is sitting around the cup of coffee. You don't suddenly put your elbow up, you don't suddenly have it up in the air. It's down on the table, your right hand is grabbing it because that's how you started and that's how you're going to finish every single take. The writer has given you the words in the script, and as the actor, it's not our job to rewrite scripts. It is not our job. Let me say that again. It is not our job to rewrite a script. We want to make sure that when we get handed a script, that the words that come out of our mouth are word perfect. We stay word perfect for a couple of reasons. Number one, it honors the writer and what they've decided to put on the page. And it says, as the actor, we honor you and your work, and we respect that this is your craft, and we want to make sure that we maintain the integrity of what you've written and the story that you've created. The second reason we want to be word perfect is that for the editor and for anybody else who's on the back end of production putting these shots together, we want to make sure that we've lined up word for word what is in the script. So as the actor, we need to make sure that we're doing our part to make everybody else's job easy. We don't want to do their job for them. We don't want to make it more difficult. We're working as a team with the crew, with the people on the back end of the production, and we do our job by sticking to the script, by sticking to the story, so that they can do their job and put it together and make it as understandable and seamless as possible. So there are a lot of different things that can disrupt the continuity of a shoot. And some of these are from the actor's perspective. Some of them are because of the actor. It would be our fault. It might be the fault of somebody else. But as a team working on a film, on a television set, working on a short film, whatever it is, a commercial, we want to make sure that we are all working together. So as the actor, we have to do our part to keep things as consistent as possible. So we're going to kind of analyze the different areas in which we might have a part to play in what's going on and what might disrupt the continuity. So the first area, which is probably the biggest area that actors are responsible for, for are errors in performance. So when we're talking about errors in performance, we mean that the way in which we've done something, when we've performed a scene, when we've done our part as the actor and we've delivered a line or we've done a movement, something there doesn't add up. Something isn't right take to take. One of the areas in which it's really hard for an actor to maintain continuity, but we have to do that, is when it comes to our gestures and our blocking. So something we haven't looked at, which we're going to dig into really quickly right now, is actually the relationship that happens between yourself as the actor and the cameraman who is following you. So the first camera assistant, potentially, maybe it's the assistant director of photography, but the person who has the camera that is directly played with you, there's almost this relationship, this dance that happens. So you're moving and they're following the camera, and you have to move in such a way that they can follow and do their job. And for example, one of the things that you would work on is something called focus pulling, or pulling the focus, which is where as you do something, they have to make sure as you move whatever it is, say you have a cup of coffee, that's a great example again. If you have that cup of coffee down and you lift it up to your face, the camera might decide that they need to focus in on that cup of coffee, and your face might, or the background might need to become a little bit more blurry so that we get that depth. And they need to, as the camera person, as the person in charge of what is going on, what the audience actually see, they have to work with you on, as you pull it up, making sure that they can do their part to manual focus, to focus in on this object that you have. So as the actor, when we're looking at our movements and our gestures, we have to keep it consistent, because we want to be able to be in this beautiful dance with the camera assistant or the camera operator who's working with you. If we do something that's totally left of field, if we do something that's totally out of the sphere of what we've rehearsed and what we've kind of gone over with them, then we're putting a lot of work on them to do their job and to follow us with the camera and to pull the focus as needed. If we can keep things consistent and the same and be aware that there is another person on the team that we're working with, then we actually make their job easier. And again, when it comes to editing, everything lines up, everything matches. The same with our gestures. If you raise your hands up here and they're at like maybe chin height as you come out, every time you do that, you have to raise your hands to the same point. It has to be almost muscle memory so that there's not this inconsistency. It's not like they're down here for one take and then they're up here for one take and then they're at your chin again. Every time you raise them, they're at your chin. And every time you raise them again for the next take, they're at your chin. So as the actor, we have to be super, super like hyper aware of these details, almost like a dancer, so aware of our body that we know exactly what it's doing, exactly where it is, and exactly how it's moving at what time. Emotional continuity also ties into this point, which is making sure that your emotional intensity and your commitment is still the same shot after shot after shot. Now, before we explain this rule, let's just look at exceptions. There might be times when a director would ask you, okay, let's play that. And instead of exploding out in anger, I want you to keep the anger internal. I want it to be something simmering on the inside, and we barely see it on your face, but there's that fierceness, that intensity behind the eyes. They may want those two contrasts, because they may say, I'm not really sure when we put it in context with the rest of the story which option I want to go with. So if the director asks you for two very different things, your job as the actor is to say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, go ahead and do those two different things. But if the director has not given you specific instruction to give them two choices, you want to make sure that you're still matching your emotional connection to each take. So if you say, okay, from 1 to 10, 1 being I'm not emotional at all, 10 being I'm hysterical with whatever emotion this is, if you're sitting right at a 7, you can play within that 7. You can make that 7 look however you want, but take after take after take, you have to recommit to that number 7. You have to recommit to playing the same emotional intensity so that when they go into the editing suite, unless they've asked, again, the exception, unless they've asked for a different sizes or intensity with those emotions, you want to give them something consistent so they have something good to pick from. So something else that the actor sometimes is responsible for is errors in wardrobe. Now, if you're working on a larger budget film or a larger budget production, you will probably have somebody that can help out with costume, and you have somebody whose their job is specifically to check continuity. So they might be taking photos of your costume, the wardrobe department will be taking photos of your costume, so they know each time they put you in that costume or each time you start a scene wearing those things that you're wearing them the same way in the same place. So as the actor, We have to be aware of, what does my character do with their clothes? How do they do it? And is it the same each take? Because again, we want to make sure we make the other person's job easier. Yes, it is responsibility of somebody in the wardrobe department to make sure that that detail is consistent, because that is their job. But as the actor, if we're fussing with that scarf, if we're messing with that scarf all the time, their job is going to be very, very hard, and they're probably going to get really irritated at you because you keep changing things. So we want to make sure as the actor that we stay consistent so that they can notice the smaller details of, okay, is this pocket popped out a little bit? Yes or no? Is there some stitching that's coming undone? Is there a chance of something happening to the scene, happening to the costume in this scene? And they can make sure that they're following their job, and they can pay attention to continuity, but they know that it's a partnership with you and the other person. As the actor, if you don't have a makeup or a wardrobe department to help you with all of this stuff, continuity errors in wardrobe also refer to your hair as well. This is probably the biggest one. If you don't have somebody that's watching out for you, then as the actor, you have to be hyper aware of what you're doing. If you start a scene and your hair is in front of your ears, and then the next shot is behind your ears, and then the shot after that, it is back in front of your ears, that is super inconsistent. And that means that we have not maintained the continuous flow of time and space. We have not maintained the integrity of this scene. If you're working on a larger budget production, you might have a hair and makeup crew who can pay attention to those things, who are watching to see that your makeup is the same, to watching to make sure that your hair is the same in each shot. But if you do not have that, if you're working on a lower budget film, maybe a student film, and you as the actor tend to be responsible for your own makeup and costume, then you are the person that has to make sure that you are consistent. There are no errors in your wardrobe, in your hair, your makeup, or your costume. A great way to do this is to take continuity photos. So right at the very beginning, the first day that you turn up on set with that costume, whether you've been shooting for 2.5 weeks or not, the first day that you put on that costume and you wear your hair a certain way, you must take photos of it. Have photos of yourself, selfies, have somebody else take photos of you, long shot, medium shot, wide shot, from the front side, the back, the other side, so that you can make sure every time you put that on, every time you do your hair, every time you do your makeup, that things are consistent and the same. This also goes for if you have any special effects makeup, like you have a scar or a bruise, you have to make sure that those things remain consistent. Again, if you have somebody doing the hair and makeup for you, then that's their job to keep things consistent, but you don't want to touch it or rub it during the day so that it erases off your body or it moves. But if you are the person that's totally responsible for that, you want to make sure you take photos. And each day when you go back to do that piece of wardrobe again, to do that special effects makeup, that bruise, or put that scar back on your face, you refer back to the photo to make sure that it is exactly where it needs to be. And finally, one of the other things that an actor can be responsible for is errors in props. Now, I am 110% sure that you have seen or you know about the Starbucks cup in Game of Thrones. If you don't know what I'm talking about, where have you been for the last 3 years of this world? But if you do know what I'm talking about, you know that in season 8, there was a Starbucks cup in one of the shots of Game of Thrones. And this was set a long time before Starbucks was even around or a part of life. So that is a huge, huge error in continuity. We also want to know, how do we use that prop? When do we use that prop? And in what fashion do we use that prop? If you have a makeup brush, for example, and you spend the scene putting on makeup and you're looking at the mirror putting on makeup and you start saying things this side, and then when you're shocked with somebody, it's in your right hand, and then for some reason you hold it in your left hand, you want to make sure that every time you pick it up with your right hand, you put it on this way, the same line, it goes over to the other side of your face, you're shocked at what they say, and then you change hands as you do something. You want to make sure that that is consistent. So there is this routine, again, almost like this dance of what's going on, and then you're able to continue. So it's like you have to put your body into robot mode. You have to put your body into the ability to repeat things over and over and over. This is one of those times where we know that acting is actually really quite similar to dance. It really is an art form where you have to technically understand, what am I doing in this moment? What is my body doing? And be able to repeat it exactly the same way in the exact same fashion every time, so that you maintain, again, the integrity of your performance and you help everybody else maintain the integrity of the script and of the production. So looking at continuity is one of those things that might seem really painful, that it might seem frustrating to have to keep note and keep track of all these small details. But if you do it, it helps to make things look seamless. If you don't do it, it is very obvious and it takes everybody out of the experience. So when we're looking at eyeline, it again is also very similar to what we look at with theater. When we're looking in theater, we need to make sure that we're making eye contact with another human being, we're making eye contact with the other character on stage. Or alternatively, if there's somebody off stage or something off stage that we're talking to, that our eye line is consistent and it is the same. When we're looking at film, our eye line has to be consistent, and oftentimes it's going to be directed toward the camera. There are very few times when your eye line is not going to be in the vicinity of the camera. So we're going to talk about what this means for us as the actor and what are the different things that might happen, what we want to do and what we want to avoid. So right now, looking directly into the camera means that we are spiking the camera. So if you ever hear somebody say, don't spike the camera, it means don't look directly into the lens. Looking directly into the lens makes the audience feel like they're being spoken to directly. So I am directly talking to you right now. So here is a quick little shot of what I see as I'm directly talking to you. I see this little camera right here. I have myself in the viewfinder on the side, and I have the camera right in front of me. So as I'm talking to you as the audience, I am looking directly into this lens right here. So I am spiking the camera, and what that does is it makes it feel like I'm talking directly to you. Again, right now with my phone, same thing. I have the lens right in front of me here. I'm talking directly to you, and it makes you feel like there's this intimate connection and we have this relationship. When we're shooting a scene, unless it's specifically asked for, we don't want to actually look directly into the lens because that disrupts the fourth wall. Like we talk about in theater, when we acknowledge the audience, then we're acknowledging that we're in this space and that something isn't quite real. But if we have the fourth wall there, which is where the audience and the actors don't interact, it's like the audience are just watching on, and that's what happens with film. You have this story being told, and the audience sitting at home, sitting in the movie theater, wherever they're watching it, they're actually a part of the story, but they're not involved. They're not a character in the story. So often we will not be looking directly into the camera. So here's what we want to do. If we have somebody off screen that we're talking to, first of all, we want to make sure we know, okay, are they to the left of the camera or are they to the right? And we want to make sure that we're looking just off to the side. You may have to look all the way off. So right now I'm probably about 2 feet looking off the side of the camera, 2 feet this way looking off the side of the camera. This is back at the camera again. So you want to know, okay, where in the room is the person that I'm talking to? Are they in the same space as me? Are they far away? Are they close up? And you want to make sure you're adjusting. And as the actor, the technical side of you is imagining exactly where that character is and you're making eye contact with them. What we want to do is also make sure that we keep characters consistent. So if we are talking to somebody, you might have a team that are willing to either have a stand-in there so you can make eye contact with them. They might just hold up a tennis ball or something on a stick, and you know that that is where your eyes have to go. That's your mark for your eyes, where your eyes continually have to look. Or you may not have anything. So you yourself want to make sure you look at where is the character right now. So if I look off to the side here, I have a light, I have a picture frame, and I see the corner of the wall right in between of those two things. So that's where my eyes are. Anytime I go off to the side, I go back to the same spot and I go back to the corner of the wall. And then if I need to, I can change, I can look anywhere else, I can do whatever I want, and I go back to the corner of the wall, and that is my mark. That is my eye line. Some people might stick up colored tape if there's a wall behind you so you can also see that. If you're doing a self-tape yourself and you have a wall behind you, I find it really helpful just to actually put a post-it note on the wall. So wherever the character is that you're talking to, you have something there that you can visually look at, and you always make sure your eyes go back to that. If we have multiple characters in a scene, you want to make sure that you have them placed specifically in the room. So if you have mom over here, maybe you have dad over here, dad's a little bit taller, so your eyes rise up a little bit, and maybe you have your sister also in the scene who's shorter and directly in front of you. You want to make sure that you have mom, dad, sister, and they're always consistent and the same. So as you're talking to dad, you can have that conversation, then your mom might cut in and you're listening to what your mom says, and then your sister cuts in, you cut back to her. You can always go back and you have these anchor points that your eyes return to. You don't want to kind of change things, because if we change things around, then I don't really know who I'm talking to. Like, did dad cross over there? Like, is this my sister, or am I talking to mom down there? We're confusing things for the audience. So as the actor, keep your eye lines consistent in the same spot. If you need help with that, stick a post-it note on the wall and make sure that you have your eyes returning to the same spot. Another thing to remember when we're looking at acting on film and our eye line, our eye contact, is you don't want to spike the camera as something happens. So if you're looking over here at one character and your eyes need to change over here to another character, you don't want to do this. Okay, we don't want to look at the camera as we go past, because what we've done is we've just disrupted that fourth wall. We've just broken the fourth wall. We've invited the audience in. They're now a part of this scene. We've disrupted the continuous story in our head. We've disrupted the continuity. It just breaks everything for us. Unless it's specifically called for, that's not what we want to do. So if we're looking over here and for some reason our eye line needs to shift, you almost want to gloss over the camera and don't specifically look at it. So for me, one of the best ways I do that is if I know this is where I have to look, then I'm going to look and focus my eyes on the back wall, and then my eyes skip to something also behind the camera on the wall and then shift over. So again, if you're self-taping at home and you need to stick post-it notes and you can just look at the post-its the whole way across, do that. But you don't want to come and acknowledge the camera and move your eyes. That's spiking the camera, it's disrupting everything. We don't want to do that. One other thing is that if you have an actor who's standing just off to the side of the camera, one of the really good things to do is to actually look at their downstage eye, or their the eye that's closest to the camera. So for example, if I am the actor and this is my camera right here, it's just my phone, but obviously this is the lens where they would be shooting to. So this is what I don't want to look at. I don't want to spike the camera because that is so not what we want to do. We've just talked about that. But if I'm standing here and I'm talking to an actor, I actually want to bring my focus to their eye that's closest to the camera so that I'm not looking too far off. I'm actually still maintaining this connection. I'm not disrupting the fourth wall. I'm not breaking anything, but I'm looking at their eye that's closest to the camera, and that actually draws the audience in and creates this intimate moment for us. If I look super far off screen compared to looking just off to the side of the screen, then there's a different feeling for you as you're watching it. One of the other things you want to avoid doing when you are acting on a set is not make eye contact with the crew. You will probably have about 40 people all staring at you as you do stuff. So making these spots where you look at the other actors or you look at what's going on in the scene without looking at the camera can be difficult when you have other people in the room. But you want to make sure your eye contact with them also doesn't happen. Avoid their eyes, because something might happen. They're looking at you because they're waiting for you to do your thing so that they know what they have to do for their job. But if you make eye contact with them, it's going to straight away pull you out of that moment, pull you out of the truth of that moment, because you suddenly become aware that you're not this character, you're an actor playing a character with other people watching you and doing their job, and it becomes a job for you. So make sure if you are on a set where you have a crew, just don't make eye contact with the crew while you're acting, because that will pull you straight out of the scene and you'll lose the authenticity, you'll lose the truthfulness of that moment, the truth of that moment. So one of the final things that we will look at for this class, for this year, is looking at connection. And there are two parts to this. The first part is looking at your process, your connection to your work. And the second part of this is looking at your connection to the audience. And how do we maximize that with a camera when we don't have the audience right in front of us? So when we want to make sure that we are connecting to our process as the actor, you have a way of doing things. We are creative beings. We are artistic beings. Some of us are very independent and spontaneous and may not have a lot of prep work. They just kind of like to go with things on the fly. I've met some actors that are very intentional. Everything has to be written out beforehand. And if they have all of those things in place, then they have the freedom to play when it comes to the moment. Some people just like playing it. It's through experimentation that they find out what works. But I can guarantee you most actors have a process that they go through, like we talked about, a warm-up that they go through in order to get to a point where they're ready to perform, they're ready to act, and they're ready to invest in that moment. So you have to come up with, what is your process? What is your warm-up routine? Stretching your body is great. Doing yoga like we have been doing each day really connects our breath to our body, and breath is life. Our body is what gives us life. It is where we live and exist. Our spirit, our soul lives and exists inside of our body. And the Lord breathed breath into us. So we want to make sure that we are breathing in the breath of life. We're breathing out the breath of life, and that we're connecting to that breath. So I recommend whatever your process is, in order to be truly present, in order to be truly alive and truly connected to a truthful moment, we need to connect to our breath. Another thing that's really important for us actors to do is to warm up our face, our emotions, our body, do all of those normal things that we would do on stage. You do the same thing for a film set. You want to make sure that you are ready to perform, that your body is ready and available to be vulnerable, to explore something you may not feel in normal life, and to really dig into the truthfulness of the character. There are some people who use their process and use the way that they connect to the character as a part of what they do. One of the stories that I love to hear about is in the movie The Wolf of Wall Street with Leonardo DiCaprio and Matthew McConaughey. I haven't seen the full film. I can't tell you whether you should or shouldn't see that. That needs to be a decision that you make. But I have seen the small scene where Matthew McConaughey is doing this like almost vocal warm-up thing where he's kind of pouting his chest, or he's doing something that connects him to his body.
What is the thing you're doing with the banging and the humming? What is that?
That's something I'll do before scenes to relax myself, get my voice to drop. I've been doing it for a while, but it's just something I do to relax myself, get out of my head. And I was doing it before the scene, and then I'd start the scene. We do 5 takes. I'm happy. Martin's happy. We're about to move on. And before we moved on, Leonardo raised his hand. He goes, hey, hang on a second. He goes, what's that thing you're doing before the scene? And I told him, and he goes, what if you put that in the scene? I was like, yeah, great. So the next scene, I started it off, then gave him my Mark Hanna spiel, and didn't know if it was going to come back, and it hit me in my head. I was like, oh, well, now get him on the same rhythm, because now he understands, pass the torch. And then started it off.
That was just part of the process that he uses as an actor to get into character, to get into the moment and be present in his body. That ended up translating on screen as something great for the character in that moment. So for us as the actor, there might be weird things that we do, but everything needs to have a purpose. It needs to have a reason. It needs to be intentional. Even if you're not sure what that is, start writing down as you're preparing for your self-tapes. What is it that you do to warm up? What is it that helps you get in the moment, get in the zone, get in the feeling of being able to act and be present in that scene, so that you have a process, you have a way to connect to the character, to connect with what you do, with who you are as an actor. And that might literally translate into your performance, but it definitely connects you to your performance and makes it truthful. Our connection with the audience is also just as important. And the way that I find is most helpful to connect to the audience is connecting truthfully to the character. We looked a little bit at that when we're looking at script analysis and what we understand about the character and the story and how we connect to them. But something that is really, really important is understanding who the character is and why do they do what they do. If you can make this character human, if you can make them relatable, the audience is automatically going to be drawn in. Whether we like them or not, there is going to be this reaction, this strong opinion from the audience about the character and how they feel. And if we've worked hard as the actor to create that connection to character, that's going to translate to the audience. If we haven't done the work, then the audience aren't going to feel connected to the character. So one of the ways we can do this is make a moral premise or a moral statement for the character and be able to justify their actions and their behaviors. If you're willing to engage in the character's story, to engage in their experience, to understand their behaviors and why they do it and what does that make them feel, then you as the actor are going to connect to that character. You're going to bring them alive, make them truthful, and the audience can connect to that. I think of the movie The Joker and how in that movie, the Joker became so real and relatable. And it was because Joaquin Phoenix, as he was doing that scene, he was so connected. And in his mind, he understood what each moment meant for Arthur as he was developing into the Joker. We had this vice in him, this fatal flaw in him, and the actor understood that. He understood what that flaw was. He understood what he wanted. He went after that. He justified his behavior, his actions of murdering men and being willing to kill somebody and how that made him feel. He didn't judge that as the actor. He wasn't like, oh my gosh, I would never do that in real life. You might have those feelings, but he said, as the character, I understand what this means, why he did this, and what it is that led him to make that choice in that moment. And if we can connect to that as the actor and bring that character alive and make it seem like human and make it seem like It's really something that anybody could do in that moment. And if anybody were in that situation, we might make the same choice. Then as the audience, we sit there and we're invested in that. And again, part of that goes back to eyes. If we can connect with our eyes, if we can make sure that our eye contact is consistent, it's not shifty and it doesn't diminish the power of our eyes, but we maximize the exposure of our eyes, the window to our soul, we have the vehicle, we have the ability to make that connection with the audience, with the preparation that we've done and with the choices that we've made. And again, connecting to the audience comes back to your skill as the actor, the technical skills that you have in order to create a seamless performance where we barely know that you're acting and to really push after truthful moments. If there's anything that I can leave you guys with at the end of this week, there has been a lot of information come your way. There has been a lot of things that you maybe knew, some things maybe that you didn't know. But if there's one or two things that I can leave with you, it's this. Our job as an actor is to find and play the truth. Our job as the actor is to find and play the truth. We don't want to play for laughs. We don't want to play for an Oscar. We don't want to play to create something amazing that's going to live on after us. We want to play the truth. We want to understand the why behind what's happening on the stage, on the screen. It doesn't matter where it is. We need to understand the why. We need to play for truthful moments. We need to play for this real life experience, regardless of the genre, regardless of the style that of the performance that you're in, whether it's film, whether it's theater, whether it's naturalistic, whether it's realistic, whether it's presentational, representational, whether you've prepared with Meisner or Stanislavski or Morris, or whether you've gone Adler, or whether you've gone something more like out of the box, like Laban. Whatever your process is, whatever your approach is, whatever the scene or the play or the moment is, you want to make it truthful because humans connect to truth. And for us as Christians, we know that the truth of who we are is that we've been created by a creative God, and we want to share that and express that with other people. As a Christian and as an actor, my job is to be truthful to the moment and to honor God with my gift, and to make sure that craft-wise, if I'm looking at expertise or technical elements of what I do, I want them to be excellent in order to honor Him. I want them to be excellent in order to honor the story and honor the character and the work that I'm putting in, and honor the director and the rest of the team that I'm working with. And I want to make sure that I do things excellently to honor myself and honor what God has given me in the way that I give it back to Him in service. And when we honor those technical details, we also honor the truth of the story. We can create this experience that people can be drawn into. I find that theater and film often leave me feeling some type of way, and sometimes I understand what that way is. Sometimes I have no clue how I feel after I watch something. But art is a powerful medium for us to be able to connect with people and to tell stories. And as an actor, we need to make sure that we are striving for truthful moments, striving for technical excellence in order to elicit feelings and emotions from people. And for us as Christian actors to be able to say, God, I've done my best. I've worked my hardest. I've done every technical thing I can to prepare for this. I've invested in the truthful moments. We're able to give Him this vehicle that is beautiful and polished. And we can say, God, now it's up to you. I've done my part. You need to fill this up. If we honor Him in that way by doing our best, then I really do believe that He honors us, and He takes that work of art and turns it into something that is eternal. So for us, we need to make sure that we are looking at the eternal. We're looking at what does God want to do with this, and how can I give Him the best opportunity to work with what I'm presenting. Guys, I love you. I've really enjoyed being able to spend time with you. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to reach out to me. You can catch me on Facebook, Instagram, you can email me, whatever. You have plenty of ways to access me and communicate with me. But I've really enjoyed getting to talk a little bit about film. These classes may not have been as practical as you would anticipate, because it's very hard when you're sitting at home to practically do a class with you, when oftentimes you need a director in the moment to watch things. But self-tape is going to be the key to your success. Self-tape everything. Don't sit and practice in front of a mirror. record yourself, take notes, watch things back, send them to people who are experts in this field, and we will be able to give you notes, and we will be able to tell you what is fabulous, what we can work on, what are some different ways or approaches that we can come up to something and actually make it a really truthful moment. Make sure you record yourself, keep practicing this skill, keep practicing this talent, and I will see you in the very near future at something, I am sure. So today for homework, what we're going to do is less lesson-specific homework and more like an overview of the whole week. So looking at the scenes that you have been provided, either the monologues or the scripts, I want you to actually set up a self-tape audition. So with this, I want you to put your heart and soul into your work. I want you to push for truthful moments. If you choose one of the monologues provided, then be intentional about who are you? Who are you speaking to? What are your immediate previous circumstances? I want you to pick the character that you're talking to, find your eyeline, point it at that spot, make that your mark, put a post-it note up, whatever it is that you do. And I want you to go through and use all of the things that we've looked at when you decide about your intensity, your framing, looking at your script analysis, looking at your continuity, your eyeline, your connection. I want you to put all of those things into practice and give me one of the best film scenes that you can. Let's put everything into one package and send me what you feel like is the best scene you can possibly give. This could then be something that you use on a demo reel, on a show reel. You could send it to a casting director if you wanted to. You can just keep it for your own mental notes or your own notes of yourself as an actor. But let's go ahead and give me the best performance that you possibly can so that we have something that we can work towards and strive for and say, okay, this is my standard of excellence and I just want to get better than here. If you choose one of the monologues, please make sure you know who you're talking to. Place the character off camera so that you're not spiking the camera, you're actually off to the side and you're talking directly to that person, and keep your eyeline consistent. If you choose one of the scenes, it's really important that you have someone there to read for you. So you can have this person stand, again, off to the side of the camera. They don't need to be as emotionally invested in the scene. They can just say the lines for you. But you, as the actor, are 100% emotionally invested, and you answer all of the same questions. You analyze all of the same details about your framing and your intensity and your eyeline and your connection to the piece, to the audience. You want to make sure you do all of those things, but you want to keep it as good as you can. This is our time to shine, to put all of our skills to the best use possible.